Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 19 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast presents Enchantress After Dark. This is a new series where the same great content is happening with just a little more intimate with our guests. In the past 2 years, we've been the official podcast for the Allure signing in 2022 and Readers Take Denver in 2023. And for 2024, we are the official podcast for the Dark Star Convention, happening August 29th through September 1st in New Orleans, Louisiana. Dark Star is a book conference focused on audiobooks and what's the next best thing happening in the audiobook world. Don't listen to audiobooks. It's okay. All your favorite authors and people are going to be there anyway. So grab a ticket. More information is on their website and you can learn more about this and their tickets. Today, I am chatting with a return guest, author Victoria Blue. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me back.
I know. I was like, I want her back. I want more of Victoria.
I'm so excited to be doing the signing in New Orleans. I love that city and all the people that are involved with this show. It looks like it's going to be a good one. So hopefully we get a good turnout.
I do. Yeah, I think the conversation has kind of been like for those that they're like, oh, but it's an audiobook. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It is. But at the same time, these stories are being written, whether they're in audiobook format or an ebook format or paperback or hardcovers for those that like hardcovers. It's still the story. So even if you're not a huge fan of audio or you've never listened to an audiobook, come hang out with us and come see all these awesome authors. And then maybe you'll discover, that you like it or you'll give it a chance. And if you don't, that's okay too. But like Victoria fucking Blue is going to be there. So like, it's like, yay, it's really great. So I'm glad that you're going to that event and I get to hug you again and hang out with you.
I know. Always a good time.
It is. We always try to get together when we're in someone's city because of events and stuff. We're like, hey, what are you doing? Let's hang out. So like, it's going to be a couple of good days. And again, a great city too. And some really good foods and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a few years.
Yeah,
so.
It's been a while for me too. The last time I went was also for a book conference. I travel a lot for the book conferences. It's a good excuse.
Yeah.
But it's a great city. Lots of great stories that have been written, inspired by it and stuff like that. So it's like, oh yeah. And of course, when you're going to the tour to go through the different historical sites and like, yeah, that's the house with the penis fence. But listen, as the girl that can make anything into a sexual innuendo, when I first saw that, do you know about the house?
I don't know about that one. I think I heard most about the graveyard tour. And I was like, I don't know. Okay,
right. So there's always got ghost tours and things like that. But in one of those conversations, someone had told me about this. And I'm like, wait, what? And kind of forgot it. As I'm walking around the city doing, hanging up, trying to figure out some stuff. Not going to lie, also looking for really good beignets. I looked up and I'm going, I know I'm the girl that can make anything into a sexual innuendo and my mind can make anything dirty, but didn't really think I'm like, are those what? And then my husband was like, yep, those are penises.
So is it like a wrought iron fence?
Yeah, wrought iron fence. So instead of scrolls and stuff, it literally has the loop-de-loop of the balls and then the pee-pee.
Can you imagine that on your resume?
I know, right?
I can forge steel into a dick.
Well, I mean, we've seen it too, like the memes and stuff, like when the shadows hit, there's one bridge where depending on the angle of the sun and the shadows, it looks like penises. And people are like, did they do this on purpose? Probably.
I have seen buildings and skylines and you're looking at it going, that is totally a penis. It is.
Yes. Yep. Or some of those jokes in the kids movies that is not quite very kid friendly, but only as an adult will you get it.
My husband and I used to watch The Simpsons religiously when that was on primetime. We were in front of that TV to see it because they at the time were so, pushing the envelope and saying things. And you're like, did they just say that? Yes, they did. So, now everyone's so desensitized and things are so different. But I remember that. And I remember also on Family Guy, that one, that little baby was standing on the countertop and he's asking the dog to shave his coin purse. I thought I was going to die laughing, like literally rolling on my side on the carpet, dying. I couldn't believe what I just heard, but classic Stewie. It was great.
It's again the things as an adult that we're going, oh my God, how was this even approved? But I'm also the girl that tends to ask for forgiveness versus for permission. So I'm right. Like, because someone's probably thinking the same thing. Like, oh, I wonder if they'll even notice if this wrought iron. People are usually drunk walking down the street if they're not looking at this thing.
Maybe it was a house where brothel or something originally, and that's exactly what they wanted it to be.
Yeah, exactly. I know that for shits and giggles, I'd be like, why not? Let's see if anybody notices.
Right. Well, now everyone knows that's the house with penises in their fence.
Yes. Now that's one kind of a wrought iron right there, baby.
Right. There are so many innuendos in there. I can't even, my head is going nuts right now.
Well, next time you write a story, if it ever takes place in New Orleans, you're going to have those two girlfriends of the main character just having that, as they're sipping coffee, drinking and eating a beignet, just coming up with those one-liners.
So funny. Oh my gosh.
Goodness, yeah. Folks, as you can tell, this is what happens when you've already been a guest. I'm not going to be asking her, so where do you get your inspirations from? Because we already did all that shit. And so I'm going to include the link to the original conversation so you guys can go find it. But the reality is, too, it's like really just kind of catching up and figuring out what's coming up next and just all these other fun stuff. Because I'm like, damn, Viv's really talking about penises this early in the show? I'm like, well, technically.
I know. Where are we going to go from here? That's how we came out of the gate.
Yeah. But I will say, I was going through a list of what was coming up next and releases and stuff like that. By the time this airs, your book will be already available. And that is Accepting Agatha. I did want to talk about that because not only a new book, but also I read the tagline and I was like, I love this tagline. So the tagline says, this girl has demons. He does not want to be one of them. And I'm like, yes. He has demons and we know what he do and we're going to accept the demons. We're just not going to add to it.
That's a big thing for me when I write. I like to write stories that, for me, are very real life. And this couple finds themselves married after a drunk night in Vegas. They're there for her sister's wedding and his boss. And these characters come out of the Shark's Edge series. That was the 11-book series. I finished it about a year ago, but the last one was released, I think, in August of 23. And so this is a spin-off, same people, same world, just these 4 books it's a collection of standalones, and each one is about one of the sisters to that character, Hannah, in Elijah's books. So when I was writing them, I intentionally wrote them to be colorful and interesting. So it would be a possible, exit for a spinoff. So that worked out. So they get married, in a drunken whatever free for all. And they were dating, or they had started dating before they went to Vegas. That's how they were there together. So they did know each other a little bit, but I think they had been dating like 3 weeks or something. So and she's a hot mess. The girl's got a lot of problems. She drinks a lot. She drinks to cover up her problems, like a lot of people find themselves doing.
I love the blur because it kind of has it like right there, but also I can kind of hear it in my head, like Agatha Farce has a host of things she's struggling with. Feeling like an invisible member of the large family? Check. Drinking way too often to deal with her problems? Check. Drunken nuptials to a guy she's only known for a few weeks. Check. So I'm like, okay. But just like the rest of us, right? We all got shit going on.
Well, and then on top of it, she loses her job. So it's one thing after another for the girl. But a lot of it is her own doing because she's living like a wild child, and so he's a good Catholic boy and he does not want an annulment. He does not want to, go see if they can get out of it somehow. He says, let's give it a year and let's try to make it work. Mm-hmm. And just by all of her circumstance, she agrees to that. And their story is just about them trying to figure it out. how do you stay married to a stranger? And they just come up with a lot of weird little things that, they end up fighting about because new couples fight, even old couples fight, and so I love this story. I think it's great. I like her growth in it. And it's not for me. Also, when I write books, I am getting worse and worse about it. I think I'm not a huge fan of the HEA. That might be unpopular, but I don't think that it's true life because I don't know. I'm 53 and still not everything is tied up with a pretty little bow. I'm living. I live every day and new stuff comes up and old stuff revisits and you know what I mean? And so unless you're going to have a 95 book series, how do you tie it all up? But it's believable. And so sometimes people aren't happy with my endings because, it's not all wrapped up. But I'm like, okay, it's good for where the book ends, where they're happy for now. They're happy in the place they've gotten to. Mm-hmm. I can't answer for everything unless I write 5 more books. And
yeah, but I also think that's is a conversation that I think the community has been having, whether if it's romance, if it has an HEA. And I think the reality is, I think we have to start looking at this and be able to have the conversation without feeling like we're going to get into trouble or that it may be an unpopular opinion or canceled and stuff like that. But here's the truth. As long as the two characters are happy and there's maybe they start dating at that ending, right? And that's still an HEA. That's still a happily forever after. The forever after is unrealistic for everybody because things change. I had a peer/friend of mine's post something about, all you guys are loving your hockey players and think of them so happy, sexy. And then here's what it's like to live with a hockey player because her husband plays hockey for, as, the guys league. And there's stuff everywhere. The dish, the washer has this, there's stuff there. And I put it in the comments. I go, this is why the book ends at the beginning of the relationship because fighting over the hell you put your shoes on the floor for the 15th time that I've tripped myself, leaving the spoon on the coffee machine used or, like, oh, look, the trash is full and it's too heavy for me. And so it falls on you and you still have not taken. These are not sexy.
I like having weird stuff like that in my books and see how they deal with it. Maybe inject some humor, maybe inject a solution to that argument that you didn't think of. Or I like writing relatable characters. And when they're all perfect and everything is tidy and neat at the end, it doesn't sit with me. It just doesn't ring true. And so I don't know. I
mean, that couple that you read in XYZ author is probably in therapy right now.
And let's talk about professional athletes. They are gone.
Yeah.
It's like being married to a military man. They're gone half of the year.
Yeah.
That is not a glamorous life.
No, because you're stuck at home with the kids because, of course, you got pregnant at the end of the book.
And you're lonely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's bad. I don't know. I love hockey romance. I love them. Megan Quinn's hockey, that team, I love them. I feel like I'm a fan of that team and it's fake. Those are good books, but they're funny. I love her humor, man. She has me laughing out loud.
And I know that we read to escape. I know that we all read to not be reminded that our husband has yet again not cleaned the bathroom like he said he would 5 weeks ago. And things like that, or that the oil light on the car is still on, but that's something that you guys have talked about. Because here's the thing, I'm sure someone's going to get into the comments and bust out, but Viviana, if it bothers you so much, why don't you do it? And I'm like, because my happy ass is talking here to Victoria Blue right now.
And I don't know how.
Or we have kind of had that conversation of like, you're going to take care of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of this stuff.
That's how I went into my marriage. We agreed on who does what, and we stuck with it. We had our 30th wedding anniversary in July.
Ooh, congrats. Both are still alive. I'm sure he's still smiling. These are all goals, folks. Okay. And that's the other thing too. I've been with mine now 20 something odd years. We celebrated our 21st wedding anniversary. I was with him since I was 19. He was 27.
That's an age gap.
Yeah, it's an age gap. Oh, office romance too, by the way. I'm telling you, completely. But how we started dating would be the romance book. Okay.
Right.
Right now, not so much. it's one of those things. So I know that a lot of people are like, oh, it has to, like, well, let's talk about it realistically. And okay, an HEA doesn't automatically mean that she gets pregnant, because there's some people that can get pregnant,
right?
Keep a pregnancy. It doesn't mean that, that everything's perfect. I mean, he still might leave clothes on the floor, or, like, why is the underwear so-and-so over here versus in the laundry, can or whatever. Those are things that we're escaping, but that's also where I'm like, it's still a romance.
Why don't the readers who can relate more to the woman who can't get pregnant or the woman who loses the pregnancy, don't they also deserve to have relatable characters in books?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of constantly reading things that they can't relate to and it just hurts.
Yeah. I mean, and it's definitely something that I think we're trying to be a lot more body positive, because, when they say that she's curvy, but she's a size 10, and I'm like, fuck you. She might be curvy, but don't put her at the plus size. The plus size is like a size 18. She's curvy and stuff like that, but the curviness comes nicely because she's wearing one of those suck it all in, I can't breathe body shapers, right? That you freak out if he sees you not wearing. That's not the kind of romance that I want to know, right? I'm like, yeah, I got the roles, and as now a lot of these TikTokers are saying, like something to grab onto while you're writing.
So do you personally prefer to read something that you can relate to? Does that feel more like, I don't want to read that, I'm here to escape?
I think it's a little bit of both. I like seeing myself in the characters, and maybe some different aspects, like the fact that maybe she's a chef, like I have my degree in culinary arts, or, she wears glasses and it's not, she can't, because like that. But also don't make it like that. As soon as she removes her glasses, all of a sudden every guy sees that she's fine. I've done that test, folks. Okay. It doesn't work. But at the same time, I know my self-worth, so that's not an issue. So there's certain things like, is it believable that, she has magical powers and can, talk to animals and ride a dragon? No. Do I want that to be realistic? Yeah. I want my own, how to train your dragon, right, thing. Right. I want that, but I know it's not real. But I do want to be able to relate to these characters, whether they're Latina, whether they're a plus size, whether they're extremely smart and have always been kick-ass strong. And the men have always had an issue with that. But being able to find someone that's like, oh, okay, he can keep up with her.
They say they want it, but then when they get it, they don't know what to do with it.
Yes, exactly. So I want to know about those characters and things like that are like, okay, I want to give someone like that.
Oh, I think I have an idea for a new book.
Ooh.
That's how it happens. People always say, where do you get the ideas from? That's how it happens. It's said, or I see something and then I'm like, oh, there is an idea right there.
Write it down before you forget, because that also happens.
That happened to me this morning. I was doing my makeup and I had to stop what I was doing because the book I'm working on right now, I'm like, kind of getting to where I need to build toward the Black moment. And I'm personally not ready for that. I don't want to do that to them. And, but that's how the story goes. They always go that way. Yeah. And I had a great idea for, how to transition there. It's always the transition for me. It's not the actual Black moment. It's not the, the slide down on the other side. It's that transition from, relationship building, and then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose,
Yeah. My favorite is like if you all would have just talked, if you would have just asked him,
oh, yeah.
Or if you would have just asked her or said, hey, what the fuck?
One conversation. Yep. I was just talking about this with someone. If all it took was one conversation to fix all of this, for me, that's not a good plot.
Right.
It's infuriating as the listener or the reader to be sitting there screaming, just tell her. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, unless it's a Hallmark movie or something like that. But right. I mean, it's definitely something too that I think, like, if it can be, I mean, there's so many different ways, or, like, why weren't you forthcoming with this information? That may be more of a driver for me than the easiness of, like, if you would have just told her, okay, but why didn't you? Those factors are, for me, that's maybe where the plot is driven more, because he couldn't tell her because, I don't know, NDA, I don't know, whatever.
Well, or it would have put her in danger. Or
yeah.
Something. But there's a lot of things you can do with it. But when it's just because the person is being deceitful, I don't know. That doesn't sit well.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like confrontations. And I'm like, I get that we don't like confrontations. And I get that sometimes we don't want to have those hard conversations, but we also need to strive to be able to have the hard conversations because and not only in our books, but the same way that you learn that you have a kink.
Right.
Because you read that book, you might learn to solve a problem in your life by having the conversation, by reading that book.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Why not have the little trials and tribulations of a relationship in the story, and then the reader can experience the solution and, maybe learn something from it. So
yeah.
Maybe I should write a self-help book.
Right? Yeah. The Vivi chapter is quack at him. So for me, those are those little things like if I was writing a book and the hero is leaving his shoes everywhere and she's tripping on it and she's had the conversation with him. I'm like, shoes belong in the closet and, that behavior doesn't change. How do you solve it? In my eye, I started quacking in my relationship. I started going quack.
You told me this. I thought it was the funniest story.
I know, right? But I'm like, if someone wrote that shit in a book, maybe someone else can learn it.
It would be funny. And then I wonder how many people would try it,
Yes. And might learn to, like instead of saying, oh, I cannot be with him. He has all the great qualities except for the shoes. Because there's some people that end relationships for those little things. And a lot of little things add up to a lot.
Right. Well, and a lot of little things usually point one big arrow towards something else.
Yeah. And things like that. So it's just one of those where I know we read for the escapism and we read for the otherwise dark romance. It would be another comment. Like if it wasn't for escapism, we'd be like in trouble.
Right.
But also like some of us like reading a little bit more realistic heroines or heroes where, he's really damn handsome and stuff. He just doesn't have a six pack.
Right.
Or he's not 6'8". He might be just 6 foot. Oh
no. Short.
Oh, no. Short at 6 feet. I'm like, listen, I am 5'7", okay? 5'6". As I'm getting older, I've gotten shorter. It happens, people.
It does happen. I have not shrunk yet. I seem to have gotten every other freaking thing possible as I age, but that has not happened yet.
Okay, good. You also wear awesome heels all the time.
So I do wear heels all the time.
She does. I mean, she's walking out these conferences with her heels and so I'm going, I'm in sneakers.
I'll tell you what, though, we just did for my day job a trade show in Vegas. It was 3 days on a concrete floor and I wore heels day 1 and 2 and 3 had tennis shoes on because that was brutal. And I wear heels all day, every day, but standing on concrete is a whole other story.
Yeah. It's like walking on grass with heels is not good. So is the extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some cute sneakers out there, people. So it's okay. You don't have to always wear the heels. And as someone that prefers the chunkier heels and stuff like that, I'm okay with that. But yeah, I mean, again, going back, DHA, as long as the heroine and the hero are happy, whether that's just starting to date again or taking things slow or deciding that they're going to get married and not have any kids because that's okay too, or they're just going to have a farm and adopt 50,000 animals and save them all and rescue. It's all good.
For some people, that's happy too. Somehow we've gotten pigeonholed into what an HEA is. Like it has to have these benchmarks or this story is not complete. And I am going to disagree with that forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
I almost seem like every little event or conflict or, situation in life is like a book, its own little book. And you just want to resolve the problem and be happy. And maybe that's what are we going to have for dinner? We need to decide we're going to a restaurant. Who's going to pick? What are we going to have? And at the end of that story, we're eating a delicious meal. Look, we're all happy. So I just think there's so many different ways stories can go.
Yeah. I also think sometimes we love the heroes and the heroines and the characters that you guys have created in these stories. We just want to know more. And I get that. And I totally understand it too.
I'll tell you, as an author, that is one of the best compliments, because if I can create another person that is so interesting that you want to know them, you want to be friends with them, you're wondering, what are they doing today? I remember when I was just in quotes, a reader, that was one of the things that made me decide to start writing. I wanted to write stories that made people feel the way I was feeling after finishing a long series, and I was in despair because I felt like all my friends moved away.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know, what are they doing today? Where are they going to meet up for coffee? Where, I felt alone. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to make a story like that. So for me, that's a great compliment when someone tells me, I just want more.
And not feeling obligated.
Yeah, I want more too, but
there's all these other things. Look, backlist. Get to know them again, read them again. Yeah, I mean, I think that as time goes on, as a reader, you've been around for a long time. As a reader, me too. We've seen the changes in the trends. We've seen like vampires were back. I'm like, did they go anywhere? Because I was still reading them. They were still being written. They were just not in front of your face on TikTok because it wasn't around TikTok.
Right.
But I mean, it's just one of those things that, that's where, I think having these kind of conversations and being able to do it in a, respectful, adult conversations is always important. And I'm always willing to have those dialogues with people as long as it's respectful, and it's okay to agree to disagree. Right. In this case, at the end of the day, whether they get pregnant at the end of the book, or they have 50,000 kids via adoption, or they decide that it ain't for them, so they're just going to get dogs and cats. There's no need to argue, because this is not anything that really matters in the world as far as importance. There's other things.
Well, and in one way isn't right or wrong. It's just the way you choose. So
exactly. Just like when you have that friend that is awesome with kids and they're like, hell no, they ain't having it. And that's okay. We shouldn't make anybody feel guilty for not wanting to have kids.
Do you think that you've always had that clarity, or has that come as you've gotten older? And you're younger than I am. I feel like coming around to that point where you can respect someone else's opinion, where it's fine to walk away not agreeing. Mm-hmm. But, you just keep it respectful. Like you said, everyone is allowed to have an opinion. And I just think I've gotten a lot better at that as I've gotten older, because when you're young, I'll say when I was young, I wanted to convince people of everything, like that every one of my opinions was the right one. Mm. So it was like not every conversation, a lot of conversations where it was an invitation to debate, and you had to, prove your points. And I don't feel like that anymore. I'm perfectly fine with everybody just liking what they like. I don't have to convince anybody of anything, Mm-hmm. But I do feel like that has been a journey and a destination.
Not many people are at there, by the way. Right. I think for me, I was raised. So from the very beginning, I think this is something too that I've always been like this. I was always taught that everyone is an individual. Everyone has different experiences, and that their truths are not necessarily going to be your truth. And that we all, because we're human beings, we have to respect each other at that level. Just because you're a human being doesn't mean I like you. It doesn't mean that I have to agree with you. I'm just going to respect you as a human being. And I also was taught that I'm not always, and nor should I always be, the smartest in the room.
Right.
If I'm presenting at a conference or somewhere else, and I'm giving you this information as this subject matter expert, let's say in marketing, even then, it's still what I know. Someone in that room could have had a different experience doing exactly what I said should be done. And it may not have been a good one for them for whatever the reason, executions or other things. And there's always going to be someone else that's going to say, oh, but did you try this? And I'm going to be like, no, I didn't. Why the fuck didn't I think of that?
Right.
And that's all okay.
And then you learn something and everyone goes away happy. That's like the beauty of interacting with other humans. We get learn from each other, but you have to keep your mind open.
Exactly. And I think that's what it is. A lot of times people have their minds shut, that this is the only way for whatever their reasons. And sometimes that is a selfish reason, because they also are afraid to look within and be questioned about their own things. Like I've had people that have said that because I'm honest and I don't put up with bullshit, I'm a bitch, or that I am this or that, or because, or she wasn't for it. I'm like, no. The information was out there. A, you didn't ask. B, I don't have to justify myself to you all the time, nor am I going to.
And C, being honest doesn't equal being rude.
Right.
And I've known you for a long time now, and you are not a rude person.
Recently, too, with the way society is nowadays, people and their keyboard warriors. Recently, there was something that happened with someone that was new to the community saying some stuff. How they went about it was a little bit wrong because they were like in the, they were saying things that could have come across as if they were angry or versus saying, I have no idea why this is not the case, but my God, or talking or asking the questions in a way where it wasn't coming across as if you were being pissed off about something. But the rest of the community, either some people didn't say anything because it doesn't matter. I mean, everybody again has an opinion. There were a few people that made the choice to go at it combatively as if they were the worst human beings ever doing the worst atrocious thing and treated this individual really wrong in the sense of like their reactions to her video. And they made that choice. They could have gone nicer, given this person maybe more grace and said, hey, I see that you're new. Let me give you some information.
Yeah, or reach out behind the scenes.
Yes, you don't always have to do it publicly. That's the other thing too. A lot of times people that do a lot of things on stage are also actively looking for the attention. And that's something that also for me, I'm not about that. And so that, I've also been dinged for that. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not the attention whore, because there is such a thing and I'm sorry, but there is. And there's also those that prefer, I don't have to, I will, if I have a question or if you said something and we have that kind of relationship, I've done it to people. I send a DM and I said, hey girl.
Yeah, you want to take that down.
Just so you know, you may want to look at that or perception could be, and I'm providing my opinion. I'm giving feedback, but I'm also not choosing violence. If I have to choose violence, girl, you all better run because it's that bad, right? You're
not choosing like complete career destruction or like, what is the payoff there? What is the payoff of if it's, this social media canceling where you're going to completely destroy something that person built based on one thing they said that you didn't agree with? It's like, whoa, I don't know. It's a weird thing for me. This is when I start to feel really old. Like, I don't understand what's going on,
the thing with the canceling is running career is like, I don't mess with people's money. You may not agree with what they said. They may have been a royal bitch to you, for no reason, but they still have a family to take care of. They still have bills to pay. And you can have the conversation about how they're a funky cunt, and things like that, but not mess with their livelihood. Okay. You don't have to cancel people to make your point to come across. Now, there are complete different conversations, and that's not what we're referring to when they're sexual predators or they're murderers. Those are not the people that we're talking about. We're talking about difference of opinions. And yours is not always the right one, folks. And so that's also like, oh my God, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, you know what? We all have it. The person that I think is a raging cunt because they did to me XYZ, you might think is the sweetest, most endearing person. And so I'm like, yes, because they play that well. And in some cases, what I had to deal with in that person's space, maybe the actual truth, and they're playing the game correctly in front of people. But that goes also to having that, how authentic are you?
Right.
So the whole thing with like this one creator happening, one creator chose violence in the sense of like going after this individual in a very combative way instead of, let me, as someone that's been around for a while, let me let you know why this, or that. And there were other creators, and they were including some of the narrators that took the grace and saying, hey, this is a situation. This is where, and if you have any questions, ask. Maybe not do an entire video going that way, but also that's, I think, too, people's reactions to things online. You guys need to look at it like perceptions and stuff like that. I mean, I'm older school when it comes down to that. You're not going to see me open a box in front of a camera and cry because it's right. I'm sorry, I'm just not that girl. I also don't cry at concerts. I've cried at reading a book maybe once or twice. Sasha Summers was the author.
Yeah, I can't even tell you the last time I cried. Like literally.
Yeah. And I appreciate it. I appreciate the box and you wanting me to promote it. But if you want to have this high pitch yelling at the camera, oh my God, like jumping up and down, acting a fool, that ain't me.
And if you acted that way, people would see right through it because you'd never act that way. And all of a sudden it would be like, what the hell is she doing?
It probably would be like, what the hell is she on?
Is she drinking? Yeah.
Like, what is she hell on? But that's also true. Are there folks like that are 100% genuinely like that? Absolutely. Yes. Are those the ones on social media showing it to you? Most of the time, most not. No. there's a lot of acting happening. But again, girls got to, pay for her bag, and that's okay. Not everybody likes that. And so just because they're popular doesn't mean that your book's going to sell or you're going to get in front of something because that person is jumping up and down, acting like a fool,
right?
Or yelling at you and stuff like that. And the camera telling me how awesome this book is because that's the book I'm not going to buy. Sorry. But again, it goes back to how we choose to treat people. And, going back to your original question about convincing folks, all that, I may not have convinced anybody about what I just finished saying, but are people going to come into my comment section? Maybe.
Yeah.
Do I give a flying fuck? No. And that's okay too. Now, if I said something to anybody that has ever been offensive, if I've ever said anything to someone that they took the wrong way, if I said something that may have been unkind to you, let's have that conversation. I don't know that I hurt you by what I said or did unless you tell me. And then I will apologize because it is rare that I'm out to hurt someone. Exactly. I'm like, I didn't even realize that I said it that way or that it was taken that way. It was not my intent. Or that you had XYZ backstory and why this hurt you. I didn't know that. Now I have my foot in my mouth and I am so sorry. But I know some of the listeners are going, I have never seen anything about what they're talking about. Good for you. And oh God, you're so lucky. Right. Right. I'm envious. Whatever place you're in, stay there. I think it was Riley Edwards recently, and I died laughing. She posted on her social media. Is there any place where there isn't like book drama? And someone said, in your manuscript. Oh my God. Because in the sense of like, no matter where you go, something's going to happen, right? It's the same thing in real life. You're going to see a child misbehaving at the grocery store. You're going to see a couple arguing maybe for dinner. And we're only seeing certain aspects of that. Right. I'm not going to think that he's a jackass because he is potentially having a conversation, at the dinner table because they were having a fight. I'm not going to think that that's a bad mom that doesn't teach and educate their child at home because he's having a temper tantrum. That kid could just be, testing his limits because you're in public and they all do that. They do, exactly. and depending on who that parent is, they're going to learn quickly not to test the mom in public. You're only staring because it hasn't happened to you yet. And this is also why some people will automatically say, and that is why I'm not having kids. And I'm like, good for you. Good for you. So yeah, there's just, I think the need to convince people that what you're saying is right takes a lot of energy. And I would much rather spend that energy on something fun and creative, invigorating, and than on trying to convince something that they don't want to do. Whether it's that their opinion politically or that this book is actually really good, or the opposite, that book fucking sucks. Why is it that popular? We're not going to go there. It's right. You like it. Great. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you like it. Go there. But it just goes to show that people all have different opinions and it's okay. And as we get older, because that's the other too, I'm not going to lie. There's some times where I've seen some of the stuff that's on social and I'm like, yeah, that's because they're 20. Or yeah, that's because they're 30. Or yeah, it's because they're single. Dad, they don't have kids. The thing that sucks is as you get older, I find myself saying that more. And my husband and I look at each other like we are getting so old because this world has gone mad, It's like my grandparents, the way they used to, Kids these days, damn it, get off my lawn. If those are movie references, look it up. Can you turn that down? Every time I say that. Oh my God. I drive a car that has, it's like a sports van kind of a thing. So I'm in the driver's seat in the front. My niece is on the third row in the back, which is the tiniest row. So she's actually sitting almost like laying down across it because there's no floor space and this girl's tall. But I had that moment of like, oh my God, I'm so old because we're having a conversation with my twin sister because this is her daughter and stuff like that. And I hear her music via her earphones and she has the ear pods and I'm hearing the music. I know exactly what she's listening to. And I go, Gabriela, turn that down. I can hear it. And she looked at me like, what? I'm like, that's exactly why you can't hear me now because you're deaf. And I'm going, oh my God, I sound like my mother. It comes right back around, doesn't it? Thought that was going to go where you were saying she was laying down on the seat, like not wearing a seatbelt and we all survived, or we had a car that the back seat faced back. It faced out. My dad had a station wagon like that growing up.
Yeah, it was a station wagon.
Those station wagons were nice and pretty.
Rambler or something, I think it was called.
The back chairs were coming out of the side of the car on the inside. Yeah, like something, and there were no seatbelts.
Yeah, crazy. Or do you remember it was the Isuzu, I think, Brat, it was called. And it was a pickup truck it was like a cross between a pickup and like an El Camino, so it was a small thing. It had seats in the bed of the truck.
Yeah. And we survived.
Yeah.
But also it might explain a few things. We survived. They will survive. Everybody will, when it's, 1,000 years from now and the aliens are going to be like, what the fuck? From everything from the religion thingies to people getting their panties up in a bunch, if it's an HEA or not, or, what made people decide to do it this way. I don't know, folks. Just remember to be kind, give people grace, and, just be nice. Be nice. It takes more energy to be bad in the sense of like argue, cause, the problems and stuff like that in this world like this than it doesn't.
My mantra is kindness costs $0. I was recently, like 2 weeks ago, on an airplane, and an older woman, maybe close to 80, got on the plane with her husband, and I was in the one seat. She was assigned to the seat beside me, and then he was across the aisle beside a stranger man, And so I stood up. I was helping the older woman put her bags up above, and she was so grateful and so sweet. And then her husband was sitting in the row across the aisle, and I said, do you guys want to sit together? I can sit over there. Me and that man are strangers, but at least you guys would be together. And she was like coming unglued with gratefulness about me doing that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is sad that people are so used to people being shitty that just doing one normally kind thing is getting this reaction.
Yeah. And also we don't know what's going on in their world. And I know this is going to sound like a, public source announcement. You don't know what people's lives is at the moment. They may have had that reaction on social. What you say matters. And they could, we've seen it all the time. We've seen it on news and on socials too, about how people unalive themselves because they were being bullied or someone said something. So as much as you want your words to matter, and as much as you want to be the gospel's truth, and as much as you want to be the one to tell that person that their information was wrong and that they should have Googled it at the very minimum, shut up. Just stop. You don't know what's going on. This is, it doesn't matter. Everything could be great, and they could be masking. Everything could be shitty, and they're, and they show it. You just don't know. So being kind, like you said, it doesn't cost a dime. On the contrary, it makes you feel better, and it, provides you with potential others see it and may pay it forward. So be that example. This does not mean to let people walk all over you and not set your boundaries, because that's a different conversation. I'm talking about being nice, being kind.
All right. I think our work here is done.
I think so too. I know. I gave you homework, and I don't know about you, but when I was in school, it was the biggest pet peeve of being given homework and not have it been checked the next day at school or at all. It doesn't have to be the next day because, shit happens. But that's why because I'm like, Viv, you're giving your guests homework. And I'm like, I'm giving them homework because I'm being nice. Okay. I don't want to catch them off guard, nor do I want 5 hours of dead silence for you, because that's no fun for anybody. So I did give you homework.
Yes, you did. And, I picked two of them. So I hope I picked the ones that you're going to pick, because there are several to choose from. And because I host a similar show like this, I know what that dead air feels like from the host side. And anytime I'm a guest, I'm going to do whatever I can do to not have that happen, because it is brutal.
Well, sometimes the two truths and a lie. Some people are quick wit, and they can come up with shit off the top of their heads and make it, they're like, damn.
No, I am the world's worst liar.
Yeah. Some people need to prep.
Anyone can tell when I'm lying. So that is something. I did pick that one for one, and I had to work at it, because I was like, okay, what is convincing and what is not?
Yes, exactly.
Although I think I stumped you last time.
I think you did. Sometimes it's like the worst times. It's just all about the details, I always say. Someone asks you're going to tell me 3 things about yourself, which 2 are truth and 1's a lie, and we got to figure out which one's the lie. All right, girl, what are your 3 things?
All right. My 3 things are, I tried out for the Family Feud, Hollywood Squares, and The Price is Right to be a contestant on those game shows.
Okay.
The next one is I went, and I didn't know this about you. I went to the Culinary Institute for 1 year before I had kids. And the last thing is I believe that I have been contacted by people from the afterlife at least 3 times in my life.
See, she goes from perfectly like normal day-to-day stuff to to people are going to be like, that last one's a lie. I'm like, no, most likely that last one is the truth. The culinary one was probably the lie, folks, but who knows? Also, again, in the details, you gave me like a list of a bunch of shows that you tried out for. Just because one of them is not a real one totally makes it a lie. So which one is the lie? I'm going to go with the tried out for the family shows as the lie because of the list that you gave me.
No, it's true.
You did it for all those?
Yes.
Damn, girl.
You know, being this close to LA, super easy to jet up to Hollywood. And I love game shows. I don't know what it is about it, but yeah, I was on The Price is Right probably like 4 times.
Oh my God.
But I never got on stage, you know, because everyone in the audience, they do a real quick interview, like a flash interview as you're walking in. And then that's how they pick people. Well, that's how they used to. So I don't know if they still, this was Bob Barker days, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And because I was in the military at the time, I would wear my uniform because they always would pick a military person.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I remember that one day there were like 4 people in uniform and we're all like glaring at each other like, damn it.
Goodness gracious. Okay, so is the culinary the lie then?
It is.
Okay. Should have gone with my gut.
That is the lie.
Okay.
So that leaves the other one as the truth too.
I know. And people I know who again are probably, that's not true. You know what? We've all had different experiences.
Yeah.
So you say at least 3 times, you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. But you've lived, girl, you too. You know, you've had a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I've had a lot of weird stuff happen in my life. And so I don't know why it was like this period of time in my life. I think you have to be really open to it, you know, because I think a lot of stuff happens and people just miss it going on. And so, yeah, I don't know.
Wow. As long as you're okay with it. You know, there's some people like I see dead people and they're like, but I'm okay with it. Then you're okay, great. Good for you. If you don't want it, that might be a different conversation.
2 times it was very comforting. It was very comforting. And I needed that at the time. So I was glad for it. And then the one time was just so odd. And I didn't put all the pieces together until probably like 2 weeks after it happened. And then I was like, oh my God, that was crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, things happen to us that we can't explain. And other times we have no way of knowing that it happened because it might be so subtle or you're not paying attention. I know that my mom decided to come back. And yeah, she'll probably be like, Vivi, that is not how you do that.
I told you. Yeah.
Yes. Or Vivi, be nicer to Paul. My husband. And I'm like, stop. No, they all liked him a lot better than me. I'm like, man, if we ever get a divorce, you know, he's like, yeah, they're probably keeping me for. I'm like, yeah, I know they would keep you.
Right, and throw you out.
Throw me out. I'm like, damn it. Oh, they just don't know. Yeah, but okay, cool. So which one other did you pick? Because usually we do all 3, but I mean, we're here shooting the shit hanging out. So what?
I picked the fuck, marry, kill one.
Oh, okay. So see, that one we do for our Patreons.
The one I could do too with the guilty pleasure.
So yeah, that's one of the ones for this section because of the fuck, marry, kill. Yeah, folks, I did ask the authors for the Patreons and the narrators if they could fuck, marry, kill a character that they've created. Who would they be and why? So if y'all want to know about that one, you're going to sign up for the Patreons. And trust me, it's worth it. There's a lot of extra content there that you guys are missing out on. And it goes to support the podcast in helping, you know, with editing costs, because I don't charge the guests to be on the show, nor do I get any other kind of kickback. So
that's all your time.
But it's good. I love talking to you guys. Now, guilty pleasures. I remember asking you, because that is part of the also the Patreon. We do a quick round of would you rather, and I make you guys choose between 2 things because that's also fun for me. And the question is like, would you rather let everyone know your guilty pleasures or never partake in those guilty pleasures ever again? You all are always busting out with, yeah,
Yeah, I would absolutely rather tell.
Yeah, But then we ended at that because I'm not nosy that way. But that was also part of the running joke was, okay, when you come back, we're going to talk about those, guilty pleasures. And they're like, yeah, sure. So I'm like, I'm adding that shit as a segment. And now you are back. So what are some of these guilty pleasures that you're like, oh, I'm going to tell everybody about instead of not doing them?
And it's not even like sexual related. So
everybody always says and thinks it's sexual. And I'm like, listen, it's eating that ice cream at 9:00 at night. Okay.
I love doing skincare routine. I love it. It's like the best part of the, going to bed routine. And I would never want to give that up. It's probably like my only daily self-care. Take the time to do it. And I always do it. And I love the products and, always make sure I have the products I like. And so treat myself.
Yeah, which is kind of sad that we look at it as a guilty pleasure too, because that should be almost like an automatic thing that we do. But I'm glad that you do that. I actually spent a few hours yesterday going through all of my, because I have Ipsy.
Oh, right.
Which is this, subscription thing for you pay. There's different, price ranges where you get all these, beauty stuff after based on stuff. And I'm not that girl. I've never been that girl that does makeup and stuff. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll be forced to do it. But so I went through all my stuff and I organized it because I'm also that girl that organizes shit into so like eyeshadow. I have a lot of eyeshadow. Did not realize I had that much eyeshadows.
That stuff, it adds up really fast.
It does. So much so that I'm going to probably put a pause because I have a lot, but I'm also going like, man, I forgot I had that. And so I'm like, I'll try it. It's a good way. But I think it's society. We kind of don't allow ourselves to do that. So I'm glad that you do it. I'm glad that you take care of yourself that way and that you have continued to do it regardless of how busy your schedule can be.
Yeah. I think especially once you become a parent, you give so much of your day to your kids and still your husband and you're exhausted. And so you're the one that gets, put to bed wet. I'm not going to do that to myself anymore because I did do that in my life. I was okay with it because that was the kind of mom I wanted to be when my kids were little. But I'm sure I've told you I have a severely disabled daughter and she's 27. And so I will basically have an infant in my house for the rest of our lives. And I'm fine with that too. But I do have to prioritize myself because I could get into a whirlwind of her care and, all of her things and just ignore myself, but then I'm no good for her.
Exactly.
So it's important for me to just do that. It's 15, 20 minutes. It's not asking a lot.
It isn't, but man, do we feel guilty?
I know.
Do we feel guilty? Right. And we always tell everybody else, like, oh, it's only 15 minutes. Go ahead, take it for yourself. And I'm like, when was the last time I did 15 minutes for myself? I'm like, I haven't. It's been a while.
I wonder why that is. What I think guilt is one of the most useless emotions that we feel as humans because nothing ever positive comes of it. You know what I mean? You feel like shit, then you either are shitty to other people or you do stuff out of resentment or, you know what I mean? Like, what good comes out of guilt? Nothing. I don't think anything.
Well, I mean, in that kind of guilt, yeah, it's definitely not appropriate. I think a lot of it's tough to do. Like for me, I was always like, you have to be productive. I mean, I grew up with, you have to have straight A's. You got to be, doing this. We were allowed to have downtime, which is where I get my love of reading. My mom let us do that stuff. We were not signed up for sports every single season of things, like we were not kept busy that way. But I am, a perfectionist. I am an overachiever. and so if I'm not constantly doing something, I feel like what else could I be doing?
Right. And I feel like I'm being lazy and it's ridiculous. I need to rest,
Yes, exactly.
I'm exhausted. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm retraining myself, I think is the best way to say it, where I'm able to do things and stuff. So I'm glad that but it is funny. People always think that the guilty pleasures is sexual. I'm like, listen, if y'all like to get tied, smacked, chocolate, wax, I don't want to know. If you want to share, okay, fine, I will listen. But that's not where I'm going.
Yeah. So funny.
Half the time, like I said, that guilty pleasure, it's like, and everybody always says it like, oh, I'm going to be so boring. And then they give me the guilty. I'm like, listen, that ain't boring. That's fine. That's good. It's good. every other fun other stuff, it's not necessarily sexual in nature, but also I think that's also the world that we live in sometimes in this book world, where I'm like I even get asked, like, what are you going to ask them? Are you going to ask them about like here's one you may have heard before. So Victoria, the sex scenes that you write, are those the ones that you performed?
Of course, they're direct transcripts of me and my husband. Of course they are. I knew what my answer was before you even finished the question. It's about 5 of those that just are on repeat, and it's like, yes, of course. I don't know. It's so funny. I mean, I fantasize just like everyone else. It's plus how intrusive would that be to my husband and my relationship if I was literally writing about my sex life in a book?
I know. I mean, it's funny anecdotes, fine. Little quirks, perfect, kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean, the amount of times I get asked, like, are you going to ask? I'm like, no. No. You clearly don't know me if you're asking me that. Right. But B, it's none of our business. It's none of our business.
And again, it's the spark. Maybe a spark comes from something in real life, but it's definitely not.
And it's okay if as the readers, you read something and you're like, hey, honey, let's check this out later. That's okay.
I've done that so many times.
Exactly. But I'm also not going to interview, say, hey, in the latest book that you were reading, I saw that you were reading like Hunting Adeline. No, we're not going to go there. At a bar, hanging out with no mics and no replays, we might have this conversation.
Right.
But we're at that point in time of the conversation where it's, almost the end. So before we go, I know that, accepting Agatha is coming out by the time this, but what else are you working on that you can tell us?
I'm working on, so that is a collection of 4 standalones, and I am working on the 3rd one right now and just about to wrap it up. And then I have one more after that. And then I have some projects in the wings, but nothing like solid going, for sure. So these 2 last ones are, I'm excited about writing them, but I'm also excited to see what happens after that. So
yeah, especially with that new idea that you said that you've got. So I'm like, hopefully she wrote it down.
Yeah. And then we got some trips coming up. There's Readers Take Denver first in April, and then back to back with that, like literally I get home and I go that same week to Beyond the Read, I think it is called. I confuse these things all the time. And that's in Ohio. Then it's the one in New Orleans.
Yeah. Dark Star.
Yeah, that's all of them. That's all the events I'm doing this year.
3, that's a lot, girl.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I'm glad the New Orleans is in late in the summer, which it's going to be hot as hell there.
I know.
And sticky. But you were inside most of the time, so it's fine.
Still worth going out a little bit.
That it's broken up because a lot of people that organize these book signings, they all hit us at the same time, and we get sick and we're worn out and, your pocketbook gets beat down. And
yeah, I know that's a conversation I was having with one of the events that I was working with as far as the next years and stuff. And we're looking at dates. I'm like, no, we can't because so-and-so is happening at that time. No, we can't because the week before is this other event, blah, blah, blah. And if you want this author, you can't go to both kind of thing. So yeah.
Did you see, this is big book world news, that Book Bonanza announced, I think today, this is their last year.
Yes, it is. Now, that event has been around for a while. So I've seen it grow and it's been nice. I've never been to it just because timing has always been off.
Yeah, I've never signed there. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I was like, when I was shocked, but at the same time, not at the same time, because as you and I we've been around where if for those that are listening may not know what the hell I'm talking about with the next RT Book Lovers Convention. A lot of people nowadays have no clue what that is. That was the convention to be at.
And it was like nothing you have ever been to if you haven't been to it, because there's nothing like it right now.
And it was Romance Times, used to be a magazine, like literally like a paper magazine. Like it got shipped in the mail. And that was where you got your latest releases and some of your, your big interviews with those big time authors.
It's almost like Publishers Weekly, it would.
Yeah. Or Audiophile Magazine now, except in, like I said, in real paper form, right? They were the owners of this event. So I've seen many events come and go. Shameless, BookCon, which was a spinoff of the RT Book Lovers Conventions. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And a lot of people think, oh, it's no big deal.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine the hours that go into those.
And I'm like, y'all can't even plan an event for the weekend. What makes you think that this is going to be no big deal?
Yeah, I had trouble with a kid's birthday party. I mean, I'm not going to do a book
I know.
con.
And as someone that I was a party planner, I have, project management is a huge skill set, but there's a lot more to it, and there's a cost associated. People are like, oh, they're so sad in this. But guys, a lot of people don't understand that when these events are being booked at these, convention spaces or hotels, the organizers,
and you have to pay for it up front.
And they're hoping to recoup it, not make money, to recoup it.
Right. And most of the time they don't.
And that's, even if they have sponsorships and they do this for the signs and stuff like that, most of the time, are there some conventions out there that make their money and then some? Absolutely. Are they going to tell you? No. And that's when people are saying, why are the tickets so expensive to go to these things? That's why. So this is where you got to be smart with your money as readers to see which event you go to. And you can't go to all the events, and that's okay.
And I do think that people should try to go to ones they haven't been to before.
Yes.
I know it's easy to go to the ones that are, in your town or whatever, but maybe plan for something because you're going to see different authors.
I mean, this past weekend, there was a book signing in Maryland at Barnes and Nobles that I didn't even hear about it, but I heard about it because one of the authors that was signing told me, I'm like, I wish I lived closer. I live in Florida. Not going to happen.
Yeah. That's a drive. That's
a drive. And so there's a lot of other conventions that are happening and are popping up that are smaller. Some of them are under bigger umbrellas that because they've been doing it for so long now, they've acquired another event. Like Wild and Windy has, bought out, they acquired the Love in Vegas instead of, no longer having it, but now they're under the Wild and Windy umbrella.
Right.
And some of these things are brand new. Give it a shot. And also, if you love books, and an event is happening near you or in a city that you've always wanted to go to.
These are your people.
These are your people. But even if you've not read or listened to any of the signing authors' books, it's okay to go to an event that from anybody that you've not read, because you'll discover new books to you. And you get to meet new people, and it's inclusive of new authors and narrators. So Readers Take Denver, this is their second year at a brand new venue. And people are like, okay, great. Let's see how this happens and stuff like that. BB is no longer around anymore, but there's a Polycon. Dark Star Con is its first year. And it's, there's a lot of audiobook narrators that are going. They're still working on finalizing the list. Victoria's going to be on there. There's a bunch of other people that are great. There's some people that I'm like, I have never read anything of your books,
Right.
But I'm going to listen and read them because now I'm going to hang out with them and things like that. So that's the whole purpose of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So try to go to events that you haven't. If you don't, you're going to be bummed if tickets sell out immediately. And also you're going to be bummed if an author that said was going to go no longer is able to attend. Please don't be mean again, because I've seen it.
The year I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I canceled 5 events, and it broke my heart because I knew people were going there to see me. But what was I going to do? So, there are legitimate reasons why authors back out of signings.
Oh, yeah.
We're still just human beings,
And also, people are allowed to change their mind. Period.
Right.
Period. We don't know what's going on. That something else could have happened. There could be another event that's maybe more in their genre. It's okay.
Right. And we circle right back around to just be graceful.
Just be graceful. On that note, we're going to end this show. But yeah, so I'm excited to be able to see you at not only one, but 2 of those events. So I'm excited.
I know. I look forward to
hang out with you. Yes, we're going to see about going. I will totally take you to that house and show you the penis fence.
It's on.
It's on. So thank you again for being my guest and coming back. It's been so much fun talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
I will include all of her social media accounts information on the landing page over at Viviana Enchantress of Books. And also make sure to grab your Dark Star Con tickets. Go to their websites at darkstarcon.com. It's a mouthful piece, and then I know that's what she said.
Yeah.
To learn more about the event and also to grab your tickets. And until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shoutouts, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/Audiobook Lovin. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.